Today's episode of Midweek Digest was a refreshing one as we continued with our teaching entitled Bold and Courageous. The road led us to Numbers chapter 27, where we explored the story of the Daughters of Zelophehad. This is not one of the Bible stories you get to hear often, but inside this story is buried truths about the life that we have in Christ. So this man Zelophehad had 5 children, and all of them were girls. Now, according to the tradition, the law, and the custom of that age, girls were not supposed to own inheritance. In fact, they were not supposed to have inheritance amongst their family. However, after the death of Zelophehad, the 5 girls came together and petitioned Moses. They summoned Moses and the elders of Israel and demanded for an inheritance among their father's clan so that their father's name would not be erased from history. Quite a bold move, especially when they knew what the culture said, when they knew what the law said, when they knew that the law had established it and it was inappropriate for them to even make the move in the first place to demand an inheritance when they know very well that the law forbade women from owning an inheritance. And that right there is where the story becomes heavy. You know, in this teaching of Bold and Courageous, we're exploring Godfidence, how knowing God and walking with God empowers you to defy the odds. And you see, Godfidence empowers you to defy socio-cultural limitations as well. We must understand that culture is not God-made. Culture is man's way of managing their world and their systems. And sometimes when culture poses itself as a threat to stop you from experiencing all that God has for you, it becomes imperative that you stand up against that system, whether old or new. You stand up against it and you defy it and enjoy what God has for you in Christ. The culture said women were not supposed to inherit anything. They were not supposed to own an inheritance. But the 5 daughters of Zelophehad were determined to change that narrative. The New Testament reveals to us that in Christ, there is no male nor female, which means what Christ has accomplished for us is not gender sensitive. Everyone who believes and stands bold can enjoy and execute God's promises in Christ. So don't let the culture, whether the ancient ones or the latest ones, the new culture, the new pop culture, or the ancient culture, don't let culture in general, old and new, stop you from enjoying, walking, and experiencing what God has for you. Now, Moses and the elders were faced with these 5 girls, demanding an inheritance in their father's clan. What was he going to do? Are the elders going to let it be so? How is Moses going to respond to this? How is the story going to unfold? I'll explore that with you next week as we continue with this teaching. If you love Christocentric content, this is the right place.